all those MAGA readers out there. Now, you'll notice the contradiction in terms. MAGA readers.
Up next, we got to check in on one of the worst journalists in America, former Washington Post token Republican, but she just lived out a long time ago. Jennifer Rubin, a columnist who recently went independent and now has a massive Substack following. Well, a clip of her is going viral where she had this to say about MAGA voters. Take a listen.
Okay. Why would ABC, Disney, the mouse, who has more money than God, settle with Donald Trump?
I honestly don't know.
You know, I've asked, why would ABC? But people ask me all the time, why is the media so mamsy-pamsy? And there are two explanations. One is they are convinced that if they would just move a little bit to the right, all those MAGA readers out there, now you'll notice the contradiction in terms, MAGA readers would pick up the Washington Post and they would have more readers. What is the logical fallacy here? Yes, reader. And there is nothing that the Washington Post could possibly do that would have those people take out a subscription. But they're convinced they're in there someplace.
I hate everything about this so much. You have this lifelong mainstream media figure who, by the way, did a 180 on basically everything she believes. She was a Paul Ryan shill before Trump came along and full in on Republican Party platform and basically changed on all her beliefs because Trump broke her brain and drove her mad, saying that the media, the mainstream media, is not anti-Trump enough. Babe, what? Put down the crack pipe. You've had more than enough. I mean, I feel like we're not in the same reality. If you've been reading the Washington Post where she worked or watching CNN or MSNBC or following the New York Times or all this over the last 10 years and your takeaway is, well, they really haven't been tough enough on Trump. They really haven't gone hard enough against Trump. What? How does one even reach that take? Because just because they still try to occasionally have some different perspectives or some semblance of balance or introspection, you think they're in the tank for Trump or they're pandering to MAGA. And of course, the truly nasty bit about this that's just so disgraceful and out of touch and ridiculous is when she rants about how, well, MAGA voters don't read. It's a contradiction in terms. One, imagine thinking you are ever going to convince people or ever going to recruit people to your side. Your whole thing is hating Trump and wanting to be against him. And yet you're actively so toxic and nasty towards his supporters. Of course, they're only going to be defensive. They're never going to be open to your message. What are you doing? Just from a strategic, self-interested point of view, what you're doing makes absolutely no sense. All you're really doing is pandering to resistance libs, kind of giving them fan service and actually doing the cause you say you care about a huge disservice, which would be, you know, convincing people not to support Trump. If that was actually your goal, I mean, you don't catch more flies with vinegar than you do with honey or whatever the saying is. That's obviously not the right approach. But more importantly, this is just like literally not true. First and foremost, Americans by and large don't read enough anymore. But MAGA reads plenty. The number of conservative authors and pundits who have best-selling books is enormous. I mean, publications like Breitbart, FoxNews.com, Washington Examiner, all sorts of right-of-center media outlets get millions and millions and millions of page views every single day. The Wall Street Journal editorial page is very conservative, has a very robust readership. Like, lots of Republicans and Trump supporters read plenty. It's just an asinine statement and comes off as so elitist and so condescending and so perfectly indicative of everything that is wrong with how the mainstream liberal media, who Jennifer Rubin just typifies, has handled this era of our politics. And frankly, like why we have Trump 2.0. It's because of this kind of elitism and doubling down on disdain for people. And like this has not worked and they still don't get it. And that just honestly kind of astounds me. In a similar vein, we've got a tweet that's popping off from our favorite member of Congress, Jasmine Crockett, the far-left Democrat. She writes, "This is a problem that Democrats have had. We've significantly underestimated how callous and selfish some people are. We've truly wanted to believe in the general goodness of humanity, The fact that people are okay with losing their jobs and healthcare, going into a Trump-induced recession, not being safe, all in hopes that someone else will be hurt, is wild. Actually, it's downright satanic, but this is where we are in this country. This woman has lost the plot. She actually thinks that, like, people who disagree with her are just selfish and actively don't care if everything gets worse in their lives as long as other people are hurt. It couldn't possibly be that they earnestly believe Trump is going to be better for the economy or that we need to secure the border to keep people safe. No, it must be that they think he's going to cause a recession and don't care because at least they'll get to see minorities suffer. How out of touch, how insulated from everyday Americans do you have to be to actually believe that that is a representative portion of Trump voters whatsoever, how they think or how they see the world? Like, I'm here in Michigan. I know a lot of people who voted for Trump. I know a fair number of people that voted for Harris as well, but I know a fair number of people who voted for Trump, and not one of them did it because they want to see other people suffer. That is just such a pessimistic and insane worldview. Like, obviously, that's not true about people who voted for Kamala either. Most of them earnestly care and think they need to protect abortion rights, or they're worried about Trump being a threat to democracy or other things. And whether you agree with them or not, most of them earnestly have the best interests of the country in mind. They're voting with what they think is best for our future. And for a sitting member of Congress to be so incredibly out of touch with the country she is supposed to be serving is remarkable. And this, to be calling it satanic is just wild to me. It's actually wild. I actually think Jasmine Crockett is playing a character. I think she's actually remarkably intelligent and articulate, and simply purposefully speaks in a way that is dumbed down and is intentionally simplistic and crude because it gets her attention. It makes her, the controversial one, the fighter, or whatever. It gets her booked on media because they know she'll say something spicy that will get their show clipped up and shared. It really is kind of part of an incentive structure and revolving door of political commentary and news that I think is broken and incentivizes the worst from our elected officials. And she just so perfectly exemplifies that. She's increasingly become one of my least favorite people in American politics. And that's saying something. What do you guys think of all this? Let me know in the comments.